question that I've been asked a lot about in my writing, especially with the last release that we did, Oshun, and then mentioning Oshun again in this song, Cassandra, Oshun, Oya, and Mama Yemoja. And they are deities, they are energies within the Orisha tradition, with Oshun representing femininity, freshwater, sensuality, and tactical warfare. Oya being the wind, Oya being the warrior, and with Mama Yemoja, Yemanja being the mother of all Orisha. So it's really speaking about a balance within the feminine form. You know, she's sweet, but she's none to play with. The mother of all things, have that motherly energy, but at the same time, will run, come defend it. Yeah. So it's all of that that's inside of there to balance everything out. So Oshun and Oya, Mama Yemoja. Whoa, Mrs. Cassandra.
Welcome to the TTT News Special. I'm GK Rosta. We are looking forward to this conversation. I refuse to call it a Freetown Stand episode, but at the same time, we are looking at all the energies eddying and swirling within a young lady by the name of Cassandra. Now, I've been told that Cassandra is the answer to all the times we've been told that soca can be sexy without being overtly sexual, but it's a collaboration between Freetown Collective and Static Music, and we have the frontmen for the band here in the persons of Lyons and Muwakil. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for being part of it.
And thank you for having us.
And now I want to get down to it. So, Mohammed, I want to ask you though, how long does a song like this take to write? And I asked that question because you said for Red Eye it takes about like 12 years to write a song like this. So how long does Cassandra take to write outside of the actual writing?
Your whole life. It takes your whole life to write a song like this. You know, I think as a man maturing and beginning to understand what feminine energy really is and what a woman really is, yeah, it's a song that it takes your whole life to write, and a song you will continue writing for the rest of your life.
All right, so in terms of calling in Mr. Lu Chiemeng Sounds of Full Disclosure fame, I want to ask though, what kind of Kool-Aid you all drinking right now? Because it seems as though the ethos of the group is going in a specific direction. So give me a little insight now.
It's natural fruit juices, man. Natural and organic, straight from the earth. No Kool-Aid. It is really a stripping away of superficial questioning and going deeper and finding self. And you can't talk about finding self without talking about the continent, without talking about spirituality that, came and even the spirituality that didn't come, that we must now go in search of.
And one of the reasons I asked that is because a little while ago you said that back in the day, y'all were hardcore. Real hardcore. But at the same time, I'm not sure whether or not you're any softer now. Because how hardcore is it to stand on a stage and hug your brethren, tell your brethren that I love you, encourage others to do the same, and almost being yourself in a revolutionary kind of way?
Yeah, I think when we said we were hardcore before, we were very overt with certain things and felt kind of compelled to speak in a certain type of way. And I think now, as the years have progressed, the message has just kind of become refined. We haven't changed, you're right. We have not changed at all. But the message has become a bit more refined for us in the way we put things forward.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and I feel sometimes as though I need to approach Freetown very carefully this round. I can't just say, okay, well, Freetown released something, I'm going to listen to it. Almost I need to kind of prepare myself because you're taking us on that journey. You're doing shadow work and forcing that shadow work on us as well. Is that overt? I'll ask you, Lou.
Well, we're not forcing it. We are welcoming you into the process. But you're accurate. I think Muhammad and I have always been journeying, and there was always a question in between us. How much of that private journeying can we express in the art? How much of that can we bring to the music? And I think those questionings are paying off, as in we are finding the voice to minimize that gap between real life and performance. So what you hear in the music, not necessarily the lyrics and the cadence and the notes, but the ethos, the spirit of the music, it mirrors what we are going through in our private lives, the answers that we're seeking out. And by bringing you in, we are saying, oh, these answers are, you know, not subject to any monopoly. You have access to them too.
Yeah.
And I remember Rex Nettleford talking about exercising the creative imagination and looking at how the Rastaman fits that in that dynamic, and sometimes going so left or right, however you want to describe it, but going so much off the beaten path that they're creating space somewhere in the middle for other people to be. And speaking about other people being, we've seen a slew of videos, people are giving their interpretations. We'll actually share some of those. I saw one version with Dame Lorraine's where they're using the actual, using the things that you were calling itemizing in the song. And it feels as though people are getting that permission. You said you're inviting people, Lou. Some people may call it an invitation, some people may call it a strong suggestion. But how do you feel seeing people take it up like this and run with it?
Yeah, as a channel, you want to get the message right. As in, you don't want to impart too much of yourself on what comes to you, but ultimately, you want to give it back to people unhindered. No strings attached. You want to say, this is what has come to me, but it has come to me only because I'm here for community. So after it has come to me and it passed through the process of production, here, back to the community. You do with it what you see fit.
Yeah.
And anything plus or minus with that, Mohammed?
Say that again, please.
How do you feel about it?
Again, I didn't hear you, sorry.
I'm wondering how you feel about it, seeing people actually adding their spin on it, who playing pan, who dancing, and just loving the song like this.
It's a beautiful thing, you know, to see yourself reflected back, because you know what energy you put in the song, you know how the song makes you feel, but to see that the communication was clear, you know, this is what I felt, this is what I put forward, and here now people putting back the same energy, you know, that's a real beautiful thing. And Cassandra was such a freeing song, you know, it's one of those songs that I look forward to performing on a stage. I think it's just such a beautiful song, and to see this beauty reflected back to us, yeah man, feels nothing short of amazing.
And this is a time when really we can do seeing a little more beauty in the world. We continue the conversation. I want to talk about energy when we return, but we're speaking with members of Freetown Collective. Stay with us.
Cassandra, this is Cassandra, act like Cassandra, just like her mama, feed me papaya. Oshun and Oya, she no push over, you should know better if you come in here. How your skin glow, watermelon, how your bright so, how you thinking, you make my heart go ting ting ting, oh yeah, oh yeah. You say you love me.
Yeah, so people heart going ting ting, but at the same time, gentlemen, how did the collaboration with Jamie Filbert, who we just saw on screen, come about? Because I think she is one of those people who could articulate some of that energy that is Cassandra so well. But let me welcome you back, Lou Lyons and Mohammed Muwakil.
Yeah, Jamie's
Yes, so
a friend, a mentor, some cases. So Cassandra to us. I met Jamie through Calendar, and Jamie being my mentor within that realm. And you know, we kind of hit it off from the moment we met, you know. And she has always been someone who has opened herself to collaboration. And so for the video for Cassandra, which is still forthcoming, we couldn't shoot the video because of the lockdown. That what you've seen there is just a placeholder really for the video. She's the creative director of all of that. So Jamie has come on board as creative director for the team at this point.
And one of the reasons I talk about being able to articulate that energy so much, yes, you see the divine feminine energy, but at the same time, like you said, it's calendar, so if you don't come correct, you might get a boy across your head.
Yeah, don't play. Don't play.
And that speaks to some of those energies. So you called names, and you actually we actually played an explanation with them in the beginning. But it seems as though y'all as in Freetown Collective is actively tapping into energy and bringing us across for the ride. And what was the reason behind that? And you started with it. Lou. So I'll let you expand on that a little bit, please.
Yeah, Muhammad will be able to expand a bit more in detail, but what I would say is if we only frame our thinking using Western standards, then when Western solutions fail, we have nowhere else to look. And that is what we have been experiencing. We've been experiencing a shortage of solutions to some of the social problems that we have. And that's because the framing of our human experience through Western eyes will be limited. So we have to kind of throw back. We have to go to the prequel to see what solutions lie there.
Yeah, we didn't come from nowhere. We are not a people who come from nowhere, and we're not a people who haven't been thinking about the things that plague us for a long time. You know, it's not now that we have the problems we have. The problem of mankind is a long one. And we've been thinking about things for a long time. So why not rely on the energies that helped us through these things before? And also, even in terms of creation, for us, why always try to pick the lowest hanging fruit? You know, why always try to offer people the lowest hanging fruit? You know, make people reach a little more, just a little more. You know, it might cost you some views on YouTube, maybe, because people don't understand immediately. But I think setting a precedent of that is a good thing.
And looking at the precedent, and we want to jump into Oshun in just a little bit, but at the same time, having the low-hanging fruit and saying, okay, well, it's within grasp, but saying we want to go further, we want to go higher, we want to inspire something that is a little different. It sends me back to Brother Resistance talking about the song, The Drum and the Bass. And he said, here, Water, it's just so easy. It's just so obvious. But I refuse to put the song waste or the word waste into the song. And how that changes the energy. How do you think something like this changes the energy that is sensual? It is sexual, but at the same time, it is so much more.
It changes it because how we view each other as the genders have become tainted with so much gender politics and power relations. And that seemed to be the only way of interacting with each other if we don't know of alternatives. So understanding that, you know, sensuality and sexuality is not just aesthetics, it's not just what meets the eye, but it's also real divine energies, real the channeling of vibrations that transcend the flesh and the blood and the bones. If we don't have that context for it, then we wouldn't understand the deeper appreciation that we should have for each other as temples housing energies that can be created or destroyed.
I remember once my sister told me that somebody was calling her, hey, family. And she decided that, well, that can't be me you're talking about. And she continued walking, and the person said, oh, sorry, Nubian princess. And that would have evoked a different sort of response because it's a very different energy. But speaking of energy, gentlemen, I do not want the conversation to finish. Naturally, we're doing it on the television side of things. But for those who are interested in following this conversation as it progresses, TTT Live online, Facebook, and YouTube. But we want to thank you for tuning in thus far to the TTT News Special. Welcome back. If you're still with us, you are looking at one of our digital platforms. Thank you for doing so. We are speaking with Muhammad, Muwakil, and Lyons of Freetown Collective, injecting some energy into the ether at this point in time. And gentlemen, we've been speaking about energy. Tell me a little bit about Oshun, please.
Yeah. So we've been like everyone else, observing the media and, you know, the reports of violence against women and that kind of stuff. Last year, during the quarantine, I wrote a song for my niece. And I wanted to put that energy of me as a man looking at a young sleeping girl, you know, who was dear to me, who I would give my life for in a heartbeat. And to take the energy of what I felt in that moment and put it out in the space, as opposed to me putting out a song in the space saying, well, kill all the men who just hurt women and whatever, and that kind of energy. To put that energy to remind men in the space of how we're supposed to feel, or how we do feel about our women and our children, you know? And Oshun is the Orisha energy, the Orisha deity of femininity, fresh water, tactical warfare, sensuality. And when I was writing the song, that chorus just kind of came. I didn't intend to put Oshun in the chorus, but it began a whole series of things that has now tumbled into Cassandra.
And hopefully this is something that we're able to dive down a little more in. And I'm wondering though, how do you define this collaboration, Lou, between Freetown Collective, Love Over Everything, associated brands? Is it a turning point, a step in the right direction? How do we look at this? How do we frame it?
It's a step in the right direction. It is a returning of the spotlight away from the issue itself and magnifying what the issue is and putting it back on people. Because if the issue affects people, then the responsibility is on people to bring forward the solutions. And when we see brands, when we see corporate entities, we seldom see them as people. We see them as these public entities, these brands. But working for these companies are people. Working for these companies are women who are equally empathetic, who are equally sympathetic, and equally affected by the issue. And the role and the job of the artist has always been to lubricate problem solving and the finding of solutions and finding the words and the melody and the sweetness in troubleshooting. And that I think best describes the collaboration that you see between Freetown Collective and associated brands. It's coming together and putting our heads together to find the right language, the right conversation.
Though, is it to have, let's say, the money, tell the artist, we want you to address this specific issue, but tell the story in your way?
Well, you have to want to tell the story first. You know, being commissioned is one thing, and I don't want anybody to think that this relationship is one of commission. They've observed that we have attached our voices to certain causes, and we have lent our life force to finding solutions. So they coming on board is saying, we've already seen what you are doing, we appreciate what you are doing, and we want to help. We want to help amplify that, and we want to help give you what you need. And
some of the collaborations that we've seen, so right now we see it seems as though Blase Vanguard is doing the most, because we saw him in Oshun, the first installment. We also saw him on the new song from Annalie Prime. But then we see Oshun, the second installment, being done by Gabrielle Blackwood, well, she's the person behind it, in Jamaica. Who are you looking for, or how are these links being made? How is this story being told? What's some of the backstory behind that?
You know, we have our finger on the pulse kind of around the region, you know, and in some parts of the world as well. And so when it was time to collaborate, we kind of just put down some questions to people on the ground. You know, who are the ones who have been doing this work already? You know, who are the ones who are already speaking passionately about it? And Gabrielle's name for Jamaica kept coming up, you know, Maya Cozier for Trinidad. And the next director is Melanie Grant out of Barbados. You know, all young female directors who have been doing groundbreaking work in and of their own right, you know. So the backstory really is that wherever it is, we just look for the people who are already doing the work and just give them the wherewithal to keep doing what they're doing. You know, we haven't asked them to do anything outside of what they weren't already doing.
And following up on that, I see some members of the quilt community in that second episode of Oshun making themselves, well, you're seeing their presence. And like you said, this is something that they've been doing for a while, boots on the ground.
Yeah.
But finally, though, I want to ask, do you all feel a sense of responsibility, or itemize, or let us know about whether or not there's a sense of responsibility while you're placing your imprint on the sonic fingerprint of this space. And I'll even ask you, what do you define as the space?
I mean, the responsibility is a collective one, and it is there for whoever is willing to take up the mantle. So directly answering your question, I don't feel as though someone individually or directly placed that responsibility on our shoulders, but as sons of mothers, brothers to sisters, and just men who benefit from having women in our space, the responsibility is there. And what Muhammad alluded to in his last comment is, in getting the voices that are already doing the work, specifically women voices, that's part of utilizing and repurposing male privilege in a way that is geared towards solutions, troubleshooting, actually finding answers. And we don't believe in providing answers for people. We believe in providing tools so that people could find the answers for themselves. So that's the responsibility, providing tools.
Well, gentlemen, I want to honor that light within you, and we want to thank you so much for making some time. And on behalf of the entire news team, thank you for joining us here at the TTT News Special. I'm DK Rostar.